There's a new serial stretch script called VeraLux HMS. Some people think it's a game changer. Others think it's overhyped. VeraLux is a user-created auto stretch designed to preserve color and dynamic range. Think of it like an easy version of GHS. Not magic, just very well-tuned defaults. I tested VeraLux on everything from Seestar Broadband data to Narrowband data from my ASI 533 and compared it directly to GHS and manual stretching, because the results are very different. If you're not a Seestar user, stick around. The broadband and narrowband tests are where the real limitations show up. Serial stacks S50 data pretty well, but as you can see, the result in this image of the Flame and Horsehead nebulas is pretty flat and underwhelming. This stack is about 2.5 hours of data, and as you can see that in the plain auto stretch and serial, the colors are flat and it's not very sharp. And the Ha in the Horsehead Nebula leans almost orangish more than red. I'm going to switch this to linear and see what it looks like after running it through VeraLux HMS. So right now I'm going to do basically a straight one-click auto stretch, auto calc lock D, and click process. As you can see, this stretch has much more vibrant colors and has sharper detail and better contrast than the auto stretch. From here, I can easily work on saturation and balance to get more vibrancy, especially in the Horsehead Nebula. All right, now I'm going to look at this stack of M42 taken with the S50. This is a cropped mosaic of M42 taken with the S50. As you can see, it's a noisy image. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 hours. Which is not a lot for mosaic, but it illustrates one of the strengths of VeraLux. This is the straight auto stretch, and as you can see, obviously the core of M42 is blown out. And this is one of the classic mistakes that beginner astrophotographers make. They always blow out the core of M42. I've seen hundreds of images on Facebook of M42 with a blown out core. Now let's see what we get with VeraLux. Switch back to linear, bring up VeraLux. Again, I'm just going to do auto calc lock D and process. And you can see that it did a much better job both of maintaining the high dynamic range of the image. The core is preserved beautifully. You can even make out the trapezium. And the color is much better than the auto stretch as well. And the contrast is nice as well. You can easily see these major dust features on M42. And there's even the much finer dust between M42 and the Running Man in this area. So this is one thing that I think VeraLux does really well, which is preserving high dynamic range with an auto stretch. Now let's look at some images taken with my ASI 533 MC Pro. Now here I've got two versions of the same image of the Triangulum galaxy taken with my ASI 533 MC Pro and my Astrotech AT102 ED telescope. On the left side, this version of the image is just run through VeraLux. On the right side, I've done a manual ASI H stretch as well as a Generalized Hyperbolic Stretch. Let's look at the differences between the two images. Two things jump out at me immediately. One difference, obviously, is the VeraLux image is far more vibrant. It's far more color saturation in both the galaxy and the stars. Depending on your taste, that could be a strength or a weakness. Some people love the vibrant colors. Some people complain that the colors look neon. Personally, I would probably try to split the difference between these two images in terms of color. I think VeraLux is a little bit too much, but I think that the color saturation on the right side could be more. Good news is, if you like VeraLux, but you think the colors are too much, it's very easy to just reduce the saturation to whatever your taste is. The other thing that strikes out to me is that because one of the strengths and potentially one of the weaknesses of VeraLux is that it raises the background detail, it will magnify the errors in your images. So if you have noisy data, stacking artifacts, bad flats, hot pixels, VeraLux is going to make bad data look worse. So in this case, This is a fairly noisy stack, and I haven't done any noise reduction. And the VeraLux image is noisier than my manual stretch. On the other hand, the VeraLux stretch is still a very good stretch in basically one click, versus going through multiple stretching steps and using a fairly complex tool like JHS. So I see VeraLux as a good starting point, especially if you have clean data to start with, or you have a good noise reduction routine. I'll also say that in the VeraLux stretch, there is better contrast in the background, even though it's also noisier. Installing the script is easy. So click on Scripts, Get Scripts, type in VeraLux, click Select, and Apply. Alright, now let's take a look at images I took of the Heart and Soul Nebula. These were taken with my Rokinon 135. If you want more information on that lens, check out my video review. On the left is a pure auto stretch of the data. On the right is a processed image. And this is taken with a narrowband filter, the Spumoni SV220. I'll switch to linear. Alright, I'll now run this through VeraLux. And one thing to watch out for with VeraLux and narrowband data is that it will shift stars way into the red, as you can see. But if you use the live preview and bring down the color grip, that will help a lot. Alright, the stars are still a bit red, but that can be corrected. So what you can see here is that, as you can see here, it is stretched the red from the HA very hard. And this is one of the chief complaints people have about VeraLux, that it gives what they call neon colors. And I tend to agree that it does go too far, especially narrowband. Hopefully that's something that will be improved in future versions of the script. But even as it stands, I think there is a place for this tool in a narrowband workflow. So in this image on the right, I actually used star recomposition to remove the stars. I stretched the starless data in VeraLux. I polished it using JHS and curves, and then recombine the stars, which I processed separately to keep white. And I think it's a really nice result, and shows how VeraLux can be integrated into a larger workflow as one step, but not as a single step tool. So where does that leave us with VeraLux? First off, it's not magic. It's not creating new data or details that aren't there, which is good. It is taking whatever is in your data and amplifying it. So if your data is clean and well calibrated, it will probably look really good with VeraLux. If it's noisy or full of hot pixels or gradients, VeraLux will amplify those flaws in the data. I think that VeraLux is great for beginners, showing them what a good stretch looks like and how to avoid some really common problems. When I first started, like a lot of people, I had a strong tendency to blow out highlights, especially on targets like Orion Nebula or Andromeda Galaxy. And I also clipped the blacks, chasing that perfect black background I thought the sky should have, but usually doesn't. So I think that for new imagers, VeraLux will give them a good sense of what a healthy stretch should look like. Not perfect, but good. For more advanced users, I think that it gives a good baseline to start with. It doesn't replace your current workflow, but it might replace the first 5 or 10 steps of rote stretches you do every time before you start getting into the refinement phase. For users who are ready to learn the more advanced stretching tools like GHS, I would say that they should learn those tools and get familiar with them, and then come back to VeraLux once they know how to use those tools well. So in conclusion, I think that it's a really good tool. It's not magic, it's not revolutionary, but I applaud the script. I think it's a good addition to the astrophotography community, and I hope that you guys give it a shot. So if you've tried VeraLux in your workflow, I'd love to hear about your experiences and opinions. So please drop a comment on this video and describe your experiences with it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Where do you see it fitting into your workflow, if at all? I'd love to hear your thoughts.